We are Journals Out Loud. I am your lovely and captivating host, Louise Palanker, here with a panel of wise and wonderful teens.
I've been out there wandering.
Boom.
I've been in here.
We're going to answer all of your teen-related questions, which, as it turns out, are actual life-related questions. So if you know anyone who's alive, this will apply to you. We've got it all going on. Our guest in the studio tonight is Riley Silverman. Give her a round of applause. Riley, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
You look quite fetching this evening.
Thank you.
Or this afternoon.
Either way.
Depending upon when you're watching the program. Because, of course, we're on YouTube broadcast. We're live right now. And then tomorrow, it's whatever time it is for you, wherever you are. How are you doing, Brady?
Good.
Good. We've got Mozart. We've got Joshua. And we've got Daniel. First time on the show, Daniel. We're going to make it easy for Daniel. It's not going to be a problem for Daniel. Daniel, where are you from? What are you doing?
I am from Chico, California. But
Oh, Chico.
Yeah. You know where Chico's at?
I know where Chico's
It's
at.
right
yeah.
next to the man, California, which is a joke that you'll get if you're 100 like me. Riley, where are you from?
I am from Columbus, Ohio originally, and I live out here in LA now. I live in Studio City, California.
Midwest.
Right. Got it going on. So you're a comedian.
Yeah.
Now, we queued up a clip, right, Matt? You did. Okay. So we have a
I
little
hope you
clip.
picked a good one.
It's funny. I chose it myself.
Okay.
Handpicked. And when did you decide to go into stand-up comedy?
I started stand-up comedy. I decided to do it at some point during my young age, like when I was a preteen, tween, teenage, and then I started doing it at 19 when I was a freshman in college.
Were you terrified the first time?
I was. You couldn't tell on stage apparently, but my knees were shaking like a mile a minute and stuff like that. But under my pants, so luckily you couldn't tell. But yeah, it's very nerve-wracking. And the first time I did it was at a club, and it wasn't like a full show, so it was mostly just other comics that were sitting around waiting for me to do my set. And so it was really nerve-wracking because it's no one tells you this before you do comedy, but if you're at a show for just comics, no one really laughs or acknowledges that you're a human being in front of them. So it's terrifying, but it's a good trial by fire to kind of have to get that done and then get out of the way. And yeah. Oh, some mood lighting in here.
Baby lock them doors and turn the lights.
That was Justin.
You thought comedy was scary.
Justin, he's a ghost.
He's the technical engineer.
Yeah. So when
whole show's an elaborate kill room. I got it.
So how do you describe yourself? Do you say I'm transgender, or do you just say I'm a woman, or?
It depends on the context. I'm kind of pushing more towards just saying I'm a woman in most contexts, because I feel like a lot of times when I say that I'm trans, it throws a qualifier to it. I only use trans, I think, at this point when I think it's relevant to the conversation.
Okay. So when people meet you and they say, "Oh, what kind of thing do they say that's awkward or that is not sensitive that you get often?"
I get a lot of people who, not so much there's people who just don't understand that it's not necessarily polite to just start laughing at a stranger, and I have that happen a lot. And I have people who will do stuff like that and then somehow think that I'm supposed to be cool with it. And that's weird. I remember I was home for Christmas and I went to see Star Wars with some friends of mine, and I was walking to get concessions, and there was a guy at the concession stand who just started busting up laughing, and he's like, "You got to give me a second." I'm like, "I don't really have to. I honestly can just get my drinks and go back to the theater. I don't need to spend any time on you being rude." So.
Is that what you said to him?
I just kind of said "No, you don't." And I just kind of moved on. But yeah.
And give me my Frosty.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the guy. It was a different customer at the bar. So it was the bartender, in my opinion, should have been "Hey, this is a customer. Maybe we shouldn't make fun of them in front of us." But whatever.
Yes. So at what age did you start to realize that you were identifying female?
I identified very young. I remember being 3 or 4 years old and really starting to have thoughts like that. But it was still definitely the 80s, and it was not an era where that was, especially in Central Ohio, it was not an era where that was easy to articulate. And I kind of buried it for a long time. And then I started learning about different gender identities when I was around 8 or 9, and then more into my teen years. But then I kind of repressed it a lot because I was kind of scared of it. And I didn't come out as trans until I was 27. But I knew that I was for a long time, but I really thought that I would never transition and never come out. So I kind of was oh, well, that's... And also there's a lot of... But especially back then, there were a lot of misconceptions on how you had to live if you were a trans woman. And it was very... This caricature-esque level of like hyper femininity, like a very like 50s housewife style kind of thing, and that wasn't me. And so I was like, well, I'm never gonna be that, so I guess I can't really live as a woman because I can't. But then more and more in my life, I'm like, wait, I don't know any woman who is like that. So why is it like, why do I have to be like that for me to be a woman, but any other woman doesn't have to? And that's kind of what helped me finally get on the road to being like, no, I can just be myself, and I can be the nerdy, quirky kid that I am, but also be a woman. So
Yay.
yeah.
Do you guys have questions for Riley?
What skin products do you use? Like, you do not look like older than 27.
Oh, well, first of all, estrogen is delightful, so that helps. That's mostly like my big thing. I don't actually use a whole lot of skin product. It's funny because everyone's always surprised by how old I am. I'm 34 years old, so you saying that I don't look like I'm 27 is very sweet to me. But yeah, I just mostly use a lot of like just moisturizer and I makeup remover and stuff like that, and that's about all I really use. And also just. I think it maybe helps that I wasn't wearing a lot of makeup until I was in my late 20s, so I didn't have that earlier period of life doing that. But I just make sure whatever I put on that I make sure I clean it all off. And
Yeah. I thought you were like my age. I was like,
oh well,
keep going.
no, you keep going.
Everyone's beautiful. Yay. So how did you, or do you, channel all of this into your stand-up comedy? Or is your stand-up comedy, is it just a release, or is it because you're going to be funny no matter what gender you are, or is it a way for you to educate people, or all of the above?
A little bit of all of the above. I mean, again, I definitely think you can be funny no matter what gender you are, and I think that's actually been a big push in the comedy world the last several years, especially, is to really show that I know so many very talented, funny women comics. So that's not a big deal. But also just, I did comedy for about I want to say 7 years before, actually 9 years before I came out, and so it was 7 years. Who cares? Anyway, so I kind of learned to do comedy in the closet, and a lot of my material back then, especially, it was much more observational, a lot more just very like detached, and I just like learning the skills of writing a setup and a punchline. And then as I started to get more and more personal with my material, that's kind of what led to me coming out, because it got to a point where I'm like, well, I'm being really personal with my act, but I'm not being honest with this very huge part of myself, and I couldn't be any more personal without that. And I felt like I was like not being true to myself as an artist. And so I think that being out and being trans is very important to my comedy. I think I definitely do talk a lot about it on stage, more than I thought I would when I came out, because I feel like it's a pretty unique perspective, and a lot of people don't have it. And I think it's good for me to use my ability as a comic to make this thing that's not relatable to a lot of people and find a way to make it relatable. So that's kind of like part of my mission with it. But
That was really well said. Round of applause. That was really good. Matt, can you cue up that clip so everyone can get a little taste of Riley's stand-up?
oh no. I've been transitioning. I've been on hormones now
this is a good
for
one.
about
Okay.
6 months, which has been pretty cool. But I went to see my doctor recently, and she was giving me like my checkup, my follow-up. She's like, hey, your blood work came back fine on the hormones, but we did notice that your cholesterol levels are kind of high, and we're going to recommend that you lay off the fast food because that is unnatural. Anyway, your boobs are going in pretty nicely, but let's have you lay off the Big Macs because that is against God's will.
Yay! And we've all
So
learned
awkward.
something.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Riley? Anyone? About her process, about stand-up comedy, about discovering who she was? You want to maybe know... Oh, you have a question, Greg?
How do you handle a heckler?
How do I handle a heckler?
I was going to say, repeat the question. Go ahead.
The question was, how do I handle a heckler? And I will say, luckily, one thing that's nice about being in LA is it tends to happen a lot less. I feel like on the road, when I did a lot of road gigs, and I wasn't really out yet, I was still doing very much comedy as a boy. Hecklers were... It really depends on how they are. Sometimes they're actually actively hostile, and there's not a lot you can do in that situation. You kind of just got to try to, like, hopefully diffuse it with humor and hopefully get the rest of the crowd on your side, because that's the worst thing with a heckler is, like, you got to make sure that the other people in the audience can kind of know what they're doing and can make a decision about it, because a lot of times what'll happen with comics is they'll hear somebody say something, but they don't realize nobody else heard it but them, and so they'll snap at the heckler, and then the whole room is like, why were you being mean to that person? They didn't do anything. And like, so a lot of times, like, when you hear something, it's like you got to repeat what they say to you and talk to them back, and hopefully it's something you can kind of diffuse with some humor. I used to be really good at crowd work when I was on the road. I'm kind of rusty on it now because I don't come into the situation a lot in LA, and it's also in LA. It's very much like I got to do my act that's written because somebody might be here, that kind of thing, and so I don't have as much of that skill as I used to. But it used to be a thing where I was really good at just rapid firing, responding to people and stuff like that.
Excellent. Are you good at answering questions from angst-ridden teenagers?
We'll find out.
All right.
I was a substitute teacher for a few years, and that was not as good of a thing.
Oh, you were a substitute teacher? Okay.
I was.
Oh, wow.
Give us a call at 888-531-7171. I want to say as we go into questions that also in the studio tonight we have the very beautiful and talented Syd Straw. And Syd is a genuinely gifted and spectacular singer-songwriter / musician. And I know she's not on camera right now, but I do want you, if any of these questions resonate with you, Syd, to raise your hand and let me know that you have something. Can you put the camera on Syd so everyone can see her? There's
Say
Syd.
hello.
There's Syd. Okay, and I do have to tell you before we move forward, and I do digress, and I admit to it openly, that when I told Brady that you were from Vermont, Brady's first thing was,
Do you know Bernie Sanders?
Of course.
Yeah.
Feel the burn.
I know you do. But I bet you've met him too.
You know, something funny happened on the way to this podcast, which in Vermont we call cow pods. Oh, gosh, that got very close. Have we met? I met Jill. I call her Jill Soluble, but do you know Jill Sobule? She's a wonderful, wonderful
Yes.
singer.
No.
We just ran into her in the bookstore on the way here, and I blame Jill for us being, almost hazardously late for this fine event.
I see.
But and
Was
she's
a
been out on
celebrity run-in.
she's been out on the road with Bernie and singing at all
Really?
the campaign stops. And I just said, look, I'm not giving up. Ideology will reign supreme. I want to come.
Well,
sing
he's
for
already
Bernie.
won. I mean, his message is going to be, carried forth. Into
Yeah,
the next
Bernie
years.
all the way.
But I will say
Yeah.
this. I
Yeah.
will say this. A lot of the people that have been showing up at the rallies, a lot of the young jet set have not been showing up to vote.
Well, but in New York, for
What's up?
example, when it was a closed primary. We wanted to vote. A lot of us did show up, and they gave us a provisional ballot, and like candy, they were handing those out, and those don't count for anything if you're not registered with the Democratic Party. So it was kind of a little bit of a, like he said, not an example of democracy. But I wanted to know. I mean, you've lived in Vermont. What was it like growing up with Bernie? Because he was a big part of people's lives.
I wish I had grown up with him, but I was actually trying to grow up here in
of course.
Montrose.
Yeah.
And but he has. I will say this: I've always been aware of him for the longest time, and he's always walked it and talked it, and that's what I love. Is
Yeah.
I have been watching him walk and talk it, be a man of his word for such a long time. That's why I'm excited about his political progress.
Yeah.
To be able to vote for somebody who makes actual sense to my tattered mind.
Yeah.
That's an incredible feeling.
Well, thank you.
All right.
I just wanted to know.
That
Vermonters are rare.
We'll tell Bernie that we said hi.
I'm gonna do it.
Tell him
Let's
I
call
said hi. Tell him I love him.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Mozart,
call him.
Mozart has a little bit of a crush.
Millennials want him to be our grandpa.
I
So-
want a Bernie shirt.
I can't read this. Who can read screen names? I can't read screen
I
names.
can read it.
Oh, Mozart, read this question.
Can
Oh,
I
yeah.
Clarinetter boy, I don't know.
Clarinet nerd boy.
Okay. See, it's so simple when
Here,
you say
he
it out
should
loud.
read it. He deserves
No,
it.
okay, I'll read it. Clarinet nerd boy 2015. I need says. See, I can't already. Do it.
You lost your
Yeah,
shot. Give
I
it
know.
to me. No.
I need ideas on how to ask a girl to formal. She likes Marvel movies, chocolate, spaghetti, and her favorite TV show is Psych. Anybody have ideas for a sign or something, anything I could use to ask her? This guy really gave a lot of information.
He did.
Yeah.
We know a lot about the girl. I feel like I could ask her to prom, given this
Yeah.
stack of important information identifying
A
characteristics.
girl that likes spaghetti.
But
Those are few and far.
Between,
for
yes.
those of you that
Is there a
don't-
really huge
that
spaghetti
don't know.
embargo? I didn't know that was a thing.
For
Spaghetti
anyone who
I don't
doesn't
date
Is it too many-
girls
is it
who
because
don't
of the
like
carbs?
spaghetti.
understand current high school culture, asking someone to prom has become this big production because they put it on the YouTube, and so it has to
The
be. It has to
YouTube.
have like dancing elephants and so.
Oh,
Do you go to high
gosh.
school, Daniel?
No, I graduated.
But did you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's a big thing. I see videos on it all the
It's
time.
gotten
Sounds
kind of crazy.
horrifying.
It sounds,
Yeah.
and it is horrifying. And so classes are interrupted, and it involves all kinds of dancing girls. And so, who's been to high school and has seen some really impressive promposals? I believe they're called.
I didn't go to my prom.
I didn't go to high school.
So we've
Yeah.
got nothing for
I
clarinet
didn't go
nerd
to
boy.
prom.
Well,
I didn't go
okay,
to prom either.
I went to high school,
Okay, Riley.
and I will say that I guess I'm going to be the more cynical person here, but I will say that unless you know she's going to say yes, do not do a major big production that you're going to film for YouTube and
Would
interrupt
make it
classes
better.
and dancing people, because that will be like, as somebody who made a mistake where she was very big about doing big romantic gestures and they always looked in my face. Luckily, pre-internet, I would wish that would not. I'm glad it's not out there because I got humiliated with stuff. Like I had a girl that I had a huge crush on in freshman year of high school, and we had this running gag about green M&Ms because that was the year there was like a big scandal that green M&Ms were an aphrodisiac or whatever. And so she and I had this back and forth joke about it. And so when I went to ask her out for like a Valentine's Day dance, I actually like took this like container of M&Ms, emptied it out, and picked out a bunch of green M&Ms and filled it up and then gave it to her to ask her to this dance. And she laughed in my face for it, and it was humiliating. And obviously, I'm not over it because I'm 34. I'm still talking about it. So I just
What is her name?
I won't
Yeah,
do that. 'cause
dox her.
I don't
It's
want
time
I
to
will-
shame her.
I don't believe in doxing, so I will. But I will say I don't know why I'm running for office now, but I will say that it's better. It sounds like you know a lot about her. It sounds like you guys must have some sort of connection for you to know like what her favorite things are. Unless you already know that she's going to say yes, I recommend just asking her plainly and simply. It's really high pressure thing when you like make a big production asking somebody out. They might not know what to do with it. They might get scared of it, and that's a good.
Well, one thing
Yeah.
I will say, it seems like they say yes when they're being filmed, and then they say no, later.
behind
Yeah.
the scenes.
Yeah, that's what's
Like, I
going on.
actually didn't want to go with you. I'm sorry.
Wait, Mozart, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. You've done your research. Props to you. Well done. You like this girl. You said she likes Marvel. Okay. You said she likes Marvel movies, and the first thing that popped into my head was like, make her a sign. I would just make her like a small sign. Don't do the whole balloons and the marching band and the cheerleaders doing a thing. Just do like a simple sign. I was like, be the Gwen to my Peter Parker or something.
Aw.
Like,
Aw.
I thought it was lame.
Well, Gwen
It
dies.
is lame.
It's
so that
better
may
than
be a
what I had. I had.
Yeah,
I had,
don't.
I had.
Oh yeah.
Gwen?
Oh yeah. That's
Yeah,
kind
why
of
would you
true.
choose Gwen?
Spoiler alert.
Mm, but like before.
Mary Jane.
And
though.
be the Gwen to my Spider-Man in the first movie.
So, like, talking about Marvel like movies, I think that it would be cool to like incorporate something like that and maybe try to do like she said, like a picture or something, drawing. Maybe like I think Deadpool would be kind of cool, but put like spaghetti and chocolate in there somehow because it sounds like maybe something he
no,
would
no.
do.
No,
So
not
wait,
spaghetti.
yeah.
Forget the
I have-
spaghetti.
Not both of them.
I gotta say, doing
Yeah.
like here's all
But
the
like,
things you like
no,
feels very
like-
creepy. to
like
me.
Deadpool.
Yeah.
Pasta.
No,
is
okay, so
not
hear me
okay.
out. Hear me out. Deadpool like laying on the side with like spaghetti and
How's he
chocolate.
gonna
like,
do? What are you
like-
saying? What are you asking him to do? Are you asking him to get like a Deadpool impersonator for this?
I said draw.
Draw.
But
Well,
what
how
about-
do we know he can draw?
What if he spells prom in chocolate spaghetti?
It's not prom. It's formal.
Chocolate spaghetti.
Oh, it's formal.
No.
That's more letters.
Is
It's
it
gonna
gonna
run
be
out of.
different?
It's different.
It's hard to
yeah.
make
Brady.
the Brady.
Okay.
Brady.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. That was wild on the mic tonight. All right. I mean, you know, we've all seemed to sort of agree that this guy has done his research, but what if, you know, all this stuff that he listed is all he knows about her?
From Instagram. and
From
he's never met her.
I mean, or like he just like messaged her on Facebook all these questions, like, "What's your favorite movie? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite TV show?" Okay, now I have my resources to ask you to prom. I think that I don't know. It's kind of weird that this is the stuff that he led with. Usually, you lead with more serious qualities on somebody if you really like them.
Like her personality.
Yeah, I don't
Like
know.
what he likes about her.
Yeah.
I get why he said. I think he's just trying to say like, here's what she likes, so we'll kind of use this.
Make
Yeah.
it creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mozart?
I would recommend not doing something with cooked pasta. That's just me. Just
Well, definitely not cold pasta.
Wow.
cooked pasta. It's cooked
But the-
spaghetti. It's like sloppy.
If you made her spaghetti, well, yeah. I mean,
It's
like, don't like
gross.
throw it at
Like,
her. But
like, would you want to go to formal with somebody who like makes you like a bowl of spaghetti? Like, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I
You could
wouldn't.
spell formal and chocolate kisses.
No, don't do that.
Why?
Oh, I thought you said pasta. I'm sorry.
Chocolate kisses.
really hung up
We're
on
going to move on
pasta.
to the next question.
Spaghetti isn't
I'm
romantic.
getting hungry.
I think you're thinking
romantic.
a little film called Lady and the Tramp. Spaghetti is
True.
delightfully romantic.
Yeah,
If you're a dog.
that's not going to work
All
for
right.
most people.
Guest panelists.
Yeah.
Anonymous wants to know, how do you know the difference between flirting and being friendly?
That is the best question
Isn't
I've heard
it?
in a long time.
Isn't it?
Take it.
If someone could let me know, I would really appreciate it, because boy, is that awkward.
I think about this about every 3 hours.
Do you?
Louise?
You've come to the right place.
I do. Maybe you can help me figure this out. As a for instance, I went on what I thought might be a date recently, and we were walking around. Everything was beautiful, really nice. But I said something like, "Well, what is it you're looking for?" And I was trying to figure out if we were on a date.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, in your 50s, this is weird stuff.
But it
Right.
never stops, just so
course.
you kids
Yeah.
know.
And
The
and
one advice from me: always say date when you're asking somebody it's on a date, right? Exactly.
like
Yes, please.
Yeah, instead of like, hey, do you want to hang out or do you want to
Right.
get together? It's like,
What
just
does
say
this mean?
But it's so scary to do that.
You don't get it? No,
Yeah.
no, because the girl doesn't want that. In my case, like,
You know that we're
Women
both women,
don't-
right?
no, I know,
Okay.
I know. But like when I've been dating, the women that I've encountered have wanted there to be that playful element of like we don't really know what's going on. So I mean, I don't know. I think that like there's something to be said for playing the game and that both parties can enjoy that.
Yeah. You're
That's-
very wise.
That's true, but from my personal experience, clarify. And because then it's like awkward. Like, are we on a date? Like, what do I wear? Like, are we on a date? What is this? What do I call this? Are we just hanging out? Does he like me? This is so weird. Why does he just tell me that he likes me and then we're on a date? Like,
But that's the thing, though. Like, in order for you to put yourself out there, you sort of have to be really like. I mean, that's brazen to like say, "Hey, do you want to go out on a date with me?"
do you want to go out with me?
Like, you hang out with them first, and then you see, what the situation is, and then maybe after that, I don't know. This has all been my experience, and of course, if there's an attraction there, she'll always say yes if you ask her out on a date. But if you're trying to chase after somebody who maybe isn't interested in you, I don't think asking them out on a date outright is necessarily always going to be your best.
But
Yeah,
it's not
that's true.
interested in you, and you ask them out on a date, and then they say no. At least then you have your. I mean, it sucks to get rejected.
Uh-huh.
I understand that, but I think that if you just say, if you're very clear about what you're looking for, and they say no, like I've been there. I've been afraid of it, but I definitely have had women that I've dated who, like, when they realized that we were talking about a date, they would say, like, I think that you think this is a date, and like I wish that I had just been upfront more about it because of this. But they go, I'm not really interested in that, and then I can go, okay, well that's great. That's what I was looking for though. So I don't know if I want to hang out just as friends because that's like what I was planning on. So it's better to get over it faster too if you
This
say it
isn't
and
answering
let
the
someone
question,
reject
though.
you.
Yeah.
No, what it is, it's answering
Sorry,
the
you're right.
question
Yeah.
in a lot of
Well-
ways because it's saying this remains confusing.
Yeah.
And so you
Yeah.
get to be
What is
confused.
the difference
Oh,
between
yeah, they're
friendly
really
and
so
flirtatious?
Oh, I
It's,
can
Yeah.
answer.
it's a
So
lot
good.
of
So
gray.
good.
There's
Such
a lot
good
of gray.
question.
All about
Yeah.
playing with hair.
Go
right?
ahead.
So I mean, like, the difference between flirting and just being friendly. I don't know if this person is asking how to tell in a situation. I'm going to answer that. But if you need to tell if somebody is being flirty, if they tease you, I think that's like a major signifier that somebody is being flirty and not just like coming up to you because they want to be friends. I think that you can sort of tell when people take an interest in you, for seemingly no reason. That's a big indicator. Most people don't just come up and say hello for no reason unless, you're just meeting each other in the hall and it's a friendly thing to do.
Well, I think if you would like it to be a date, you can kind of touch them a little too long,
Yeah.
hug a little
Yeah.
too like
Yeah.
you can give your little signs that it's
Yeah.
okay for them to step
Is
forward.
it
and-
okay if I sit
Yeah,
on
yeah.
your lap indefinitely? Would that be okay?
It's subtle.
Yeah.
Will you kiss me?
I guess that's the thing. If you flirt back and you're flirting, then hopefully they'll pick up your signals or not. Like that could be a way
Right,
to-
exactly.
I mean, that's how it happens, because there's like things that are unsaid that are going on too. There's like pheromones and stuff. So, I mean,
You can have a dog come and sniff and come back to you and let you know what,
Yeah,
what they discovered.
that would be a
Have
great
3
dog.
of your friends ask 3 of their friends. And
Oh, okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Now this sounds familiar.
Mozart, would you read the next question from Anonymous?
I will.
The one that begins with "If I'm pretty."
Okay. If I'm pretty, then why have I never had a boyfriend? Whenever I walk past the popular girls in the locker room, they all compliment me like crazy, but no guys are interested in me. The only guys who have been are dorks.
Well, first of all, you're mean for calling them dorks. Sorry, but you came in and said I'm pretty, and they're
We
dorks.
don't know what kind
Yeah.
of
And
people
so
this girl has to deal with.
I just think,
Just go-
And they could be creepy
kind and be
people.
approachable, because maybe the cool guys even are a little bit afraid of you, because I thought you came off a little bit harsh.
Teenage boys can be really
Anybody
creepy.
else?
Someone's gonna show up with some spaghetti, some chocolate, and some Marvel stuff for this girl, and she's not gonna know how to handle it. It's gonna be awkward.
Bill Gates, Craig? Yes, Bill Gates.
Yeah, they're the ones who are going to be rich, apparently.
Joshua?
Yeah, I think for this situation, like, I really want this person to clarify with themselves. Like, it's not that no guys are interested in you. The guys that you would like to be interested in you are not interested in you.
Yet.
And the ones that you don't want to be are the ones that are interested in you. There are people who are, so it's not that you're not likable. And then as far as how many girls that are commenting on you, I don't know. Maybe that's something to look into.
Yeah, I agree. Because, like, you say that boys, why do I not have a boyfriend if I'm pretty? Why don't boys like me? Well, boys do like you. Yeah, like he said, it's just not the boys that you want to like you. And I think that you need to make your peace with that, because as soon as you make your peace with that, then something will happen.
Brady?
Also, like, compliments. I don't know if this is true or not, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, compliments given from girls to other girls can sometimes be disingenuous. Well, okay, there she is.
Uh-huh.
I've got somebody backing me up. so, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that, obviously, like, do you, but, like, don't get a big head just because people are being nice to you. That's not, like, where your self-esteem should come from. Mozart.
Yeah, like, girls are not the most trustworthy people to tell you how pretty you are. And, like, you're pretty. You're pretty, like, don't let anybody tell you you're not pretty. But you say, like, all the popular girls say I'm pretty. But, like, girls always say that other girls are pretty. Like, there was this meme going around on Twitter where, like, this girl had her eyebrows, like, really weird. And it was, like, an Instagram picture. And another girl commented, "Love your eyebrows." And then the meme was, like, "Kathy is not your friend." like, so, like, that just gives you an idea. Don't trust other girls. But I'm not saying that you're not pretty, but just, like, don't always go off of what other
Okay,
girls are
but
saying.
what if she's pretty, but that the guys that she's supposed to be dating have just not surfaced yet, because everyone's really just too young to be kind of seeking out what they want out of life. So they're just kind of admiring people from a distance at 12, 13, 14,
Yeah.
and then it sort of starts to happen. So if dorks like you, eventually everyone's going to like you, or the pool of people who like you will widen, and you can make your selection. Or if you like someone, be nice to that person. Don't wait for someone to approach you. Approach the person that you like. It goes both ways. I'm sure you're pretty. And yes, Josh. Or what's your name? Brady?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never.
Only been
It helps
here
when I call
in
people
your
by their
life.
given name.
I also think that this person is probably pretty young because she's calling other guys dorks. And
I'm guessing middle school.
yeah, so I mean, I think that maybe it's a good thing if she stays away from the popular kids for now and maybe doesn't date for a little while.
I'd like to make the statement that self-esteem is a powerful platform.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Totally, and she should
I
get her
love
head out of the popular kid cloud, because that's not where her self-esteem is going to come from.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
gonna come
Well,
from other
Hamster
things.
hero. Oh, I like this one from Star. Came to realize that right now I think that I identify most comfortably with being FTM, transgender. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, it's someone who is identified as female at birth, but is actually it's basically the opposite of me. So it's somebody who was living as,
Female to male.
yeah.
Transgender, but still non-binary. Of course, this could change down the road. Describe non-binary.
Non-binary is stuff that's more like genderqueer, gender fluid, and it's people who don't really identify as fully male or female, but kind of somewhere in the middle. And the idea is that it's not one gender binary. It's kind of like being bisexual or pansexual, but with gender identity instead of sexuality.
Okay. but this is just where I am right now. Along with that, could you guys try calling me Kyler for a bit? I want to test it out and see if I like it or not. Thank you so much. Okay, Kyler, we will call
Hi,
you
Kyler.
We
Hey,
will call you
Kyler.
Kyler.
Hi, Kyler.
So-
What's up?
So were you ever at this point, or did you always know that you were a female?
I did spend a little bit of time trying on some different identities, and I spent about a year or two where I was kind of identifying more as gender fluid, which is a similar thing. I always kind of knew that I identified as female, but it goes back to what I said about the lifelong stereotypes that I had been dealt with that I thought I couldn't get over. And once I kind of realized, I can just be exactly how I am and still be a woman, that kind of helped me get over that hump. But I do think these are legitimate identities, and I think there are people who identify this way who totally are what they say they are. And I think that, I just personally wasn't that as much. Yeah.
Yeah, because it does feel like a lot of trans male to female people, when they become a woman, they become super dolled. And it's like a lot of work. Like I look at Caitlyn Jenner,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted.
I
How does she do this? Because
Well, I think
I'm
she
just-
pays people to do it
I'm
for
a
her.
tomboy, so
Yeah.
I'm a female, and I don't want any different parts. But if you told me that I had to do that every day,
Yeah.
I'd become a boy tomorrow. Honestly,
Yeah,
I
for
would.
sure. I think all identities, sexuality, gender are in some degree. It's there's a scale. It's like nobody is 100% one thing, 100% anything else. And so I think people who identify as non-binary are just more likely to fall somewhere in the middle, as opposed to I tend to fall much further on the female spectrum personally, but I'm a little tomboyish sometimes too. Like I love Marvel movies and spaghetti, so I do have that as well. But yeah.
And then, have you always been attracted to women?
I was bisexual for a long time, and I'm not anymore. I think because of hormones. Sometimes when you take hormones, it can definitely affect your sexuality, and it pushed me way back to being a lesbian. So now I'm
Oh.
only into women, but I used to be a little more fluid with
That's
that,
really interesting. So,
which is rare. But
what I did was I went into Tumblr culture.
I'm sorry.
Forgive me.
Oh, Tumblr.
And there's a lot of lists. There's a lot of
Mhm.
lists. I don't know if you're familiar, but you can go on Tumblr and you can find out exactly what you are like during this 5 minutes of time, because you may change your mind after dinner. But so this is just
What's
like
for dinner?
Spaghetti.
chocolate spaghetti. So this is a partial list. Did anyone look at the list?
I read
So
it.
are these actual things, or is someone making things up? Because it kind of goes sexual orientation's a master list. Androgenosexual, being sexually attracted to both men and women, and specifically to those with androgynous appearances. And we're just on the A's. Androsexual, sexual attraction towards men or those with masculine characteristics. Asexual, lack of sexual attraction towards others, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can find whatever you feel that you are. Brady, your thoughts?
These I think that a lot of these labels, especially with the sexuality stuff, they're not really as solid as you might want to think they are, and I think that they mostly just exist so that people can sort of trade them like trading cards. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. And a lot of these, objectum sexual. I've heard of that existing. That's interesting that that's included on
I've
this
never
list.
heard of that.
All right, so-
scoliosexual.
Well, people who don't have the list in front of them, why don't we describe?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so scoliosexual, someone who is attracted to genderqueer or non-binary people. I don't know. I think that that's a thing that you can describe in somebody, but I don't know if it necessarily needs its own term. And I think that the creation of all these terms just sort of it's going in the wrong direction with this stuff.
Riley?
Well, okay. I will say I for the most part am on your side with this, and I know what you're trying to say. I will say, as somebody who tried on a bunch of hats herself until she found out who she was, there is something very powerful in finding a label that suddenly, like a lot of people are like, oh, why do we have all these labels and that's so restrictive or whatever. And I, to the end of it, I agree with that. But I will say, when you're struggling and there are labels that kind of go, oh, this is what I am, it's great. It's an amazing thing. The first time I heard the word transvestite when I was a kid, and I hate that word now and I don't like to be described it, but when I was 8, I was like, oh my God, I'm not broken. This is a thing, and I am a thing. I think, but your whole thing about how the labels aren't necessarily solid, I think the thing that people need to remember is that this is a great way for you to explore your identity and learn who you might be. But at the same time, the labels are not. Don't look for the label that is going to be you, and go, oh, I think this is what I am. Just look for something that already, if something hits you and go, oh, this is how I already am. how am I trying to describe this?
What you're trying
Don't
to say
try to
is
bend yourself to fit the label. Bend the label to fit you.
what
Like
you're trying
so.
to say is that when you see something on a list that you think might apply, it makes you feel real instead of, like you said, broken.
Right.
Because before the internet, kids like you or even any gay kid felt like there was no representation of them anywhere. So they
Right.
felt like, oh my gosh, I can never tell anybody. I can't have a life. I can't be happy. I can't fall in love. I can't be loved. And now kids can just go online and say, oh, that's how I feel, even if it changes by next year. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Riley. I think that like labels can be very powerful, and like to help someone feel like they belong somewhere and really understand what they're feeling. However, I also have been a very strong advocate on the show before of just feeling what you're feeling,
Yeah.
and just not really looking for the label. Like if it comes for you and you see it and you get it, that's great. But just be who you are. Like that's at the end of the day. Mozart.
Oh,
No, Mozart, go
I
ahead.
still meant to say Josh
Brady.
had something to say.
It's okay. I've already
I'm
called
just
him
Josh for today.
Yeah.
We're all three Josh for today.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now I forgot what I was gonna say, so I'm gonna let you go while I
Okay.
try to remember.
Okay. I just want to say, I think that you make a lot of good points, and I think that it is important for people to, like, look at these things and, being able to say, hey, I'm not the only one out there. But the problem is when these terms are, like a lot of these terms create a second set of language that divides the people who understand these terms from the people who don't.
That's true. It's a big
And
problem.
If you identify as like hardcore scoliosexual, for example, like that's going to be a major divider in your life. You're basically saying like, I'm not attracted to people, anybody who isn't in this small community right now, at least.
That's attracted to people who have curvature of the spine, correct?
That's exactly
it's
what I
attracted
thought.
to dead Supreme Court justices.
Ah!
what I always say when I was in that world a little bit, when I had my toes in the tumbler pool,
Yeah.
I always kind of viewed it as being like a music fan, and then like so I guess if this is a term, like, so let's just use scoliosexual as our thing for now. If that's how you identify, I feel like you're talking to somebody who's like a square or someone who's like not part of that world. It's so much easier just to tell them that you're queer or like, and then
Yes.
amongst your friends who get the stuff, then you can go
Right.
like that's what I would always do. I would always just say that I was trans, and then if somebody like knew the lingo, then I would say, well, I'm gender fluid. But if
Yeah.
they did, I wouldn't lead with gender fluid because most people, even that term you say,
But
and
you're a
people are like,
rational person.
Yeah.
The thing is that there are a lot of people in that community who will say like, "Oh, you don't know what a scoliosexual is? I'm never going to talk to you again.
But
You are a bigot."
that's just people being. I mean, that's like being like, you don't know the early Nirvana stuff. Like it's that kind of thing. There's always going to be stuff
course.
amongst
Yeah.
kids. That do that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
and it's that's why I think the danger is because a lot of this stuff is very popular with like middle schoolers who use it for like really nefarious purposes, like to claim oppression when there's not actually oppression there. So that's all I'm concerned about. Mozart.
Yeah, I was gonna say that like, for like the most part, the terms like, if you say that you're like demisexual, is it demi? It's demi.
Demisexual.
Demi.
Yeah. Okay.
Depends on if you're talking about Demi Lovato or
Yeah.
Demi Moore.
I want to talk about demisexual after that.
Okay.
It's like, in a way, like it doesn't really affect the people who aren't demisexual, and I think it's better to have something that like a person who's confused can like be that's me, as opposed to somebody saying I don't understand that, I don't think it's valid, because it doesn't really affect them. It's like it's just there, and if it doesn't apply to you, then
Then
there's
what's
no
your problem? But
yeah.
what Brady's saying is that people can get kind of militant because when they're trying to own who they are.
Yeah, like not you personally, but just like when like, because like a lot of people say like, oh, like these aren't valid, like they shouldn't be there, like these aren't a thing, like there's hardly anybody, but I'm just saying like that, but like not like you.
All right. So in keeping with this, can Josh, can you please read the very last question,
Yeah.
because the things that this person mentions aren't even on this list, and so
Oh, the
Are you
very
talking
last.
about this
Who
Josh
is
or
the-
that Josh?
Oh
the,
my gosh.
the real
Who
Josh.
is who is the There's no username, but okay. For a few months, I thought I was. Oh God, I'm gonna say this wrong. Achiromantic, lithromantic, meaning I have crushes on people but don't want to be in a relationship. But what if I'm aromantic? doesn't want relationships at all, because I don't want a relationship at all. I think people are cute, but that's it. I don't have a problem with romance in books and movies, but I don't see myself ever being in a relationship. I'm 13.
Because you're 13.
Yeah, like that's literally what I
Because
was
you're
about to say. You're
13.
13 years old. You're a child.
That's what I'm talking about with these things. Is because it
Yeah.
influences
Yeah.
people's behavior and makes them think that they are a certain way when they're not.
Right. That's
you
what
know?
I was getting at with earlier. Like bend the label to fit you. Don't bend yourself to fit the label. Don't stress out. Like, I don't fit in this box. It's like, newsflash, most people do not divide up that well into labels ever. Labels are all completely manufactured. Every label,
Yeah.
even being a transgender woman, is a completely like it is. I'm not saying it's a fake identity, but it's there's no one right way to be a trans woman. Like, I am very different than most trans women I know. There's no right way to be a cis woman or anything like that. Like, all these things are man. It's just like religion, or it's just like literature. It's all things that people have come up with in order to explain things that have vastly wider definitions than we can possibly understand. So,
And I also want to say this about sex, because when you're 13, especially if you're a 13-year-old girl, sex is it's an invasive process, and it's terrifying when you realize what happens. And so a lot of it for 13-year-old girls is just like, I don't want that to ever happen to me.
Yeah.
And so you may come to understand that that's something that can be enjoyable, but at the moment, at 13, it's okay to not be ready for that. Whose hand was up, Trish? Mozart.
Yeah, I wanted to say I have crushes on people but don't want to be in a relationship. Like, you have crushes on people, but I think the part of you that you don't want to be in a relationship, you're 13, you're afraid of commitment.
She's afraid of sex.
Yeah.
I think.
Or whatever a relationship.
Yeah,
I mean,
because,
it's a
like,
scary thing
When
for
you're in a
13-year-old.
relationship with somebody, like, even like if you're 13, like oh, then I can't have crushes on other people. Like, I don't want to be in a relationship because then I can't like other boys. Like,
There's a lot of reasons. Why
Yeah,
you wouldn't wanna
like-
be in a
and your
relationship.
hormones are going crazy right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
So, like, you don't even know, like, you're going to be so different at 16 than you are at 13. Like, your
That's
entire brain's
People
going to
I
be
can
wired.
vouch for that.
Like, your
People
body
should drop
yeah.
most of the labels until like a certain age.
We all
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
All right, drop the labeling. All right, Daniel, are you ready to read for us? Are you a good reader?
Yeah.
All right. Can you read the question from Hamster Hero?
Hamster hero.
Great name.
That's great.
Where is it?
My friend's grandma.
My hero.
I
Show
passed
him,
it.
Josh. You're his mentor.
Hamster hero. My friend's grandma isn't well and she won't get any better. Today during our first lesson, my friend broke down and started crying. I only know why she was crying through another friend who consoled her. I can tell that this is really affecting her and want to do something to help her, but I don't know what to do.
Mozi.
I think what she really needs right now is people around her who care about her. Like, she needs a friend. You know, invite her to hang out. Like, go do something fun. You know, because I know that if I was in that situation, that is what I would want. I would want people who were there for me and who could, like, honestly get my mind off of it. Not necessarily like but you know what I mean. Like, get my mind off of it. Try, you know, to be normal and, you know, just have people who care about her around and, you know, be kind to her. Ask her to hang out. That.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Mozart. Like, also offer your ear in case that she wants to talk to somebody. However, like she said, just go along with the day as normal and like really try to not change it any more than it's already changing for her.
And, you know, another thing is when you hear that someone's grandma is sick, you're just like this concept of grandma. But ask her, what's your grandma like? Because a grandma's a person. Let her describe to you their relationship and what she's like. Daniel?
Maybe you could do things to like distract her, take her mind off her grandma. Things that make her happy, that you know about her if you're a friend.
Yeah.
She likes spaghetti.
Does she like spaghetti?
her
Everybody
some
likes
spaghetti.
spaghetti.
That was a pretty simple question. I think that
yeah,
pretty much
be
covers
a
it.
friend. Yeah,
think
that-
exactly.
The only thing I'll add to that, I think one thing that's really important when someone like I believe this person is being very sincere and wanting to make someone feel better. Just make sure when you're helping somebody out that you make it about them. Because a lot of times people
Yeah.
will be like, I really want to help somebody. And a lot of times, like, it comes across as like,
It's well,
look how great I am that I'm helping somebody. And I'm
lot
not
of
saying they're going to
times-
do that, but be really careful not to do that.
a lot of the time it is that though. Like most, like there are a lot of people who just like to help. Just be,
Like,
because it
look
makes
at
them
me,
feel
I'm
good.
helping.
It's not so much. It's not so much about you wanting to feel good. It's less about wanting other people to see how good
Yeah,
you are.
no,
That's what I'm
totally,
saying to avoid.
totally.
Make
Yeah.
sure you.
Yeah, and like adding on to what Riley said, it just really also if you're going to help, like also do what she's asking, because at the end of the day too, like you don't want to like, well, because I would be this way when my grandmother is this, like I just assume you want this. Like that's no, always be in communication.
Like even in the letter, a friend told the letter writer that the girl's grandma was sick. So it's like she may not want everybody to know that. So like that's one thing to make sure she doesn't feel like her privacy is being violated as part of it.
Yeah, I would just say like, you know, hey, you want to hang out sometime? You don't even have to mention her grandma. Don't baby her.
Right.
I would say don't even mention it in this case, because exactly what you said, like you're not even supposed to know.
Yeah.
Josh, would you read the question from Jessica Loves Her Besties?
You give me her every week. Jessica loves her besties. My boyfriend and I have been doing some sexual acts with each other, but we have only been dating for 2 weeks. Is this bad? We are comfortable with each other and we love each other. We're 16. How long into a relationship should you wait to have sex?
Not 2 weeks.
I think 3 years until
Wait,
you're 19.
not wait 2 weeks, or
No, I meant not 2 weeks.
2 weeks is too short.
wanted to
Yeah.
clarify.
Yeah.
All right, okay, Mozart. What's your recommendation? Because this is the age where that kind of pressure starts to heat up, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 16, and like, I mean, some people start having sex at 16, but like 2 weeks is not a good time. Like, even if you really like, even if you love this person so much, like a year, like into your dating, I don't know, but like not 2 weeks, anything but 2 weeks into your relationship, because like you need to think about like.
Sex is such a huge responsibility, and it comes with so many risks that it's just not like playing tennis. It's a big choice, Josh.
Yeah, I agree with Mozart. I think like in general, you really have to look at is what really you're feeling love, because like it's only been 2 weeks.
It's probably infatuation.
Or also it could be pressure from him, in addition to
Could be
everything
true.
else.
Yeah.
'Cause- Daniel?
Well, yeah, I would say it would be okay if you guys are comfortable with each other, but I would definitely wait longer, because I think it would distract from the relationship, because then it could be just about the sex, and that would be the only thing keeping you guys together.
Very good point.
And that could be a problem down the road, and you could be trapped in a relationship that you really don't want to be in, and you'd be wasting a lot of time when you could be with someone who you actually love.
And also putting yourself at risk.
Yeah.
Brady?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's, you know, unless she's being pressured, like, then it's a teen thing. Obviously, I know, Louise, that your official stance is that nobody should be having sex until they're 18.
That is my official stance.
Always.
Even
always,
I know that.
Always. And you even want them to wait a year after the age of consent.
No, I just think that the girl should at least visit a gynecologist and talk about all the precautions that need to be taken, because it's an adult behavior that comes with adult consequences, or we wouldn't have pregnant teenagers. So even if there were no diseases, it's still something that can change your life forever, Josh.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think there's kind of a second question here a little bit, is this bad? And like I've always like on the show been, there's not really bad or good, it is what it is. Like you are like, I don't know if they already did this. Yeah, okay, so I mean, you're already engaging in certain things, and it doesn't make you wrong or right for them. However, I would not recommend it at your age.
Yeah, it's interesting how many kids say, is this good, is this bad? Like the qualifiers that they put around just normal human behaviors. Like, you're
Because
not a bad person or a good
There's
person.
a show
They're made
called
to
Teen
feel
Mom
bad
for
about
a
it,
reason.
Yeah.
What, Brady?
Well, they're made to feel bad about it, though.
But they shouldn't. It's a human instinct that it's just that life comes with billions of choices that we all make every day. We make a choice. You make a choice when you decide whether or not to tip the Starbucks barista. Like, it's all choices.
Yeah.
Some of them have less consequences than whether or not you have sex with someone that you've been dating for 2 weeks. But everything has a consequence. At the end of the day, you may be lying there going, oh, should I have said that? And, you know, all of life is consequences.
Yeah.
Mozart.
Yeah, like it's not a question of right or wrong. It's just a question of being responsible, because you're 16 and you need to think about the long-term consequences for what you're doing, because, you know, are you ready for the possibility that you could possibly become pregnant? And are you ready for that? Because you have to think about like all of that before you engage in anything.
Very well said. What other good questions do we have this week? Brady, would you like to read the one from Anonymous about...
Oh, the incoming 8th grader?
Oh, no, I have a better question for you, Brady. Read the
Okay.
next one.
Oh, ladies, what are your opinions on beards? That's funny.
I like how it goes, ladies.
Well,
Ladies.
Mozart.
That's funny.
There's only like...
Well, it's completely
there's
subjective.
1, 2, 3. There's 4 ladies here. We could all weigh in. Mozart?
I mean, like, I don't have that much experience to like I've never dated somebody with a
It
beard.
doesn't have to be
Because
dating.
there's
It's
no guys
it's
at your school
guy
with a beard right
Mozart.
now.
Guy
going to
walks into
school.
room. Guy has beard. What are your thoughts? Could be a friend of your dad's.
Be honest now.
Doesn't have to be
please.
someone you're dating.
I'm not a huge fan of beards.
Okay.
Sorry. But like, I mean, it depends, you know, like on whether they. I was gonna say whether they wear it well.
It's a mature preference for women. It's a sign of maturity.
Well, you don't date men, right?
No.
So no. Do you have an opinion on beards?
No, I mean, I think the maturity thing. I think the fact that you said that makes it false. But I think Mozart was right. I think it really depends on the person and how they keep it up. I think there was a huge trend of like the hipster beard in the last decade that I'm so sick of and like over. But like if you're just someone, I think some guys look good with beards. I have friends who will shave their beard off and they look really weird. And like, what did you do? But I have other friends who will shave their beard off and like, oh, you look great. You should never have a beard again. So I think it really depends on the person. But
oval faces.
And then the
Congratulations.
man
If it's
bun.
like a little,
no,
if
no
it's
one can do that.
I like the man bun.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
if it's like a little bit of facial hair, like Matt and Justin sometimes have or Brady, I don't notice the difference honestly from the day to
Aaron,
day.
though. Aaron's got a great.
Do you have a thought?
I had a boyfriend with a beard, and
course
before
you did.
that, I really liked beards.
Before
what
that.
did he do to you?
He didn't
And
make a
he was
spaghetti.
very, very proud of his facial hair growth, like inordinately proud, almost arrogant about it. I live in Vermont. There are some serious beards in Vermont. So he came to visit in Vermont, and he was like, oh, my beard, my beard. And I was like, it's nothing. You are not going to win this contest.
What part of Vermont? by the way?
Southern.
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 All right, so I think it's personal taste.
I think it's on
Yeah.
a case-by-case basis.
Yeah,
too.
Definitely.
Yes.
I mean,
Some
beard.
men
Louis-
really
Case
look better when they
basic
cover their
basis?
face.
I'm
Louis
just glad
Silverman.
that I'm glad that I date women, so I never have to deal with it ever again.
Well, if she has a beard, then you can tell her you don't like it.
That's fair.
Anonymous writes, I'm an incoming 8th grader. I'm mainly friends with people from 10th grade, and I have barely any friends in my own grade. They're all heading to senior high, so next year I won't have any friends. There's a girl I'm really close to, and I'm thinking, always thinking about when we'll drift apart and how I'll get replaced or how I'll miss her. Even if we both have new friends, is it possible to still be friends with people who have gone on to senior high? The first part that I find kind of strange is that she's an 8th grader with all her friends are seniors in high school, or
I thought she said
10th grade.
10th grade.
10th grade.
oh, okay.
So they're only
Go
2
ahead,
years.
Go ahead, Mozart.
Well, like, I can really relate to this because I'm homeschooled and all of my friends go to school. And first thing I would recommend is get some friends in your own grade because it's like, I am in a choir and like I said, all my best friends go to school and they're not in my choir, but I wouldn't not have any friends in my choir because then it would just be really unfun for me. So I have friends in my choir that I'm good friends with. I mean, they're not my best friends, but I really like them and I consider them to be good friends. But definitely make some friends. But I don't think because they're going to senior high, I mean, it really depends because like I said, I don't go to school with any of my friends, but we're still best friends. So it really depends on the people. But I would say that you'd still remain friends, but definitely make some friends in your own grade because that's going to be really hard on you.
I don't think she's going to lose this friend just because they're a year apart. And
Yeah.
she's an 8th and her friend is going on to senior high school. You're not going to lose your friend, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, the question, like, is it possible to still be friends? And yes, it is.
Mhm.
And then at the end of the day, like, it might not be as easy as it is if you're in the same building.
Definitely.
However, if you're willing to put in the time and effort and two people really want to be friends with each other, they will be.
Riley?
Yeah, I will speak from personal experience. When I was when I was a junior in high school, most of my really, really good friends were seniors, so they all graduated the year before I did. And I had friends in my grade. I think it's really important. I think it's part of why the schools break up the grades like that is to make sure you have to learn to socialize differently. But I have one of my best friends from high school who was one of the seniors who graduated is still one of my best friends. I just talked to her the other day. I found a picture of her and her husband that I sent to her, and it was like a delight. So as long as you put in the effort and you really care about your friendship, you guys can make it work. It doesn't matter if they switch schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, you're best friends with this girl. And I went a month without seeing my best friend, like a couple months ago. And we'll normally go a week to 2 weeks without seeing each other, but there's a thing called a phone. So that helps. And like we text and we talk on the phone and everything. So she's my best friend, and I see her maybe like 2-3 times a month.
Brady.
What is this senior high business?
It's just
what is
she's
that?
saying high school. She
I think-
means high school.
I think it's not, the school
No.
the school might be broken up differently. I know a lot of schools,
Yeah.
like when I was a kid, we had like 5th and 6th, and we had like 7th and 8th, and we had, so that might be, maybe their school just does 11 and 12 together.
Well, they might have
But
junior high, senior
what
high.
I was
Yeah.
going to say is that one thing to be aware of, though, if you're in 8th grade now and you're going into high school soon, and you are going to get to an age where you will start to drift apart with from some of your friends, and that's just going to be part
Yeah, it
of
just
life.
happens.
When you go to college, it happens. When people move away, it happens, and it's sad, but it is kind of part of growing up. So if you really care about like this one girl, like I'm sure you'll be able to stay in touch with her. But it is part of being an adult and like growing up is learning that, and like especially when college happens, because people go to colleges, cities far apart from each other, and like you said, we do have phones, we have internet to keep in touch with some people, but you will fall out of touch with some people, and you'll meet new people, and you'll make great new friends that way, and that's awesome too.
Yeah, like start hanging out with your friend right now a lot, and like go over to their house and stuff, and like you can borrow all their stuff, and
Make her spaghetti.
Then they have
and
to.
never give it back
Then they
because you
have
guys
to.
are gonna drift away.
Oh, I see
Oh
what
my
you're saying.
God.
Yeah,
Another important thing is that you've been hanging out with kids that are a little bit older. They're going to go off to high school. You're going to be with the 8th graders. Do not negatively compare everyone to the kids that have gone on to high school.
Yeah.
Because nobody's really going to compare. Every individual is different. Just open up your heart and be approachable. Because as 8th graders get older, they'll get more mature, and you'll enjoy hanging out with them maybe more than you did in 7th grade. Because everyone's in the middle of growing up. So
and you were cool enough for the people who were older to hang out with you, so somebody else your age might be cool too. So
good point.
Yeah.
We're going to turn our attention to Syd right now.
Oh
Dun,
no.
dun.
That means we have to turn the camera.
Oh no.
Camera turners. Did
Let
you
me
wear
print.
you wore your
Let
pretty
me
hat?
preen.
So your bio, you have a Wikipedia entry. Have you been there?
I've read my Wikipedia
Yeah.
page. I have.
It's
I
pretty
looked at it.
impressive. It's got Michael Stipe on it and David Letterman. So these people all populate your Wikipedia page. So
Benatar.
what kind of a teenager were you?
I was scrupulously well behaved. I really was. I could have jumped off many a ledge. I was very unsupervised. And I'm lucky that I have a core of practicality and a willingness to have a long, happy life, because a lot of things might have happened. But the main thing that really happened was I was very, very interested in acting and writing and theater and reading. And I entertained myself in this, bizarrely scholastic way. And I have to say I was a good teenager, but it's all been sideways since then.
Really? Any questions from our panel?
Well, where did you grew up here?
I'm trying right now, right now with your help.
She grew up in Montrose, California,
Really?
which is a little bit north of here.
Yeah. So
I was
like,
there this morning doing watching the women who write.
Oh, at Vicky's.
Yeah,
Sure.
Vicky's.
Oh wow.
And we missed you there.
I'm sorry. I just got in from New York.
I know.
And
I'm
I've
going
been
to New York next week.
That was my excuse.
Going
All right.
to Sacramento.
Yeah, California is a
gonna stay
dangerous
here.
place for kids.
So, were you interested?
Earth is.
Were you very musical in high school?
I was. I was. I'm just going to say this. I was sort of the drama star at Crescenta Valley.
So you were. What was the play that you did senior year of high school?
Oh, the Mad Woman of Shiloh.
And you played the part of
The Mad Woman.
the
of
Mad
Shiloh.
Woman.
Typecasting.
Title role. That's fascinating. So, are you going to perform a song for us right now, Syd?
If you insist.
I do.
I'm trying to think of something relevant.
Do you have
I'm
anything
rather
about?
irrelevant?
Do you have like a promposal song
Or a Bernie Sanders song?
or
Bernie
Bernie
Sanders.
song?
If only I
Feel the
did.
bird.
Did you introduce
Feel
your
the
dog? There's a
bird.
doggy under your chair. Have you
My
noticed that?
manager, Carol Burnett, is under
Oh, Carol
my
Burnett is
chair.
here.
Oh, that's
Oh yeah,
true.
Nirvana.
It's usually under the table.
Do
so
you
that's
like Nirvana?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
Just
I
don't
will-
cuss.
Don't cuss.
No cussing.
Have I cussed? I've been-
Nobody's. Well,
Again.
this guy did.
She's been very well behaved, Brady.
This is way more well behaved than I'm used to seeing myself. This is a strange mode for me. I'm trying on.
Gosh darn it.
Oh, it's great. This is so funny and odd. Let's see. Earning on an angel. Well, let's see. I did write this song after many years ago, meeting and spending a fantastic evening with Kurt Cobain at my house in Athens, Georgia. And I was very besotted with him musically.
That's very hardcore.
I'm not simply name dropping. The truth is,
No, you can name drop. I mean, that's
Please name
well
drop.
deserved.
Okay.
Well deserved.
Then here's an impression. Michael Stipe, who's one of my favorite artists.
And
of
Bernie
all,
supporter.
And a
He's
total
out there
Bernie
stumping.
supporter. And Michael called me up and he goes, what are you going to do with Cobain? And I said, what, honey? And he said, you want to go to dinner with me and Kurt Cobain tonight? I went, did you just say, do I want to have dinner with you and Kurt Cobain tonight? And he goes, yeah. I went, yes. My answer is far more intelligible, yes. And so we had this beautiful dinner and evening, and then they came over to my house and we sat on the porch. And he actually smoked many cigarettes. I asked him to quit for me. I was like, do it for me. That would really solidify our friendship. But I kept the butts in the ashtray for a really long time. Because I remember the corner in Athens where I was standing when I heard the sad, sad news.
Yeah.
So anyhow, this is a little song for Kurt Cobain. But it could also be for anyone you know that happens to have blue eyes. And am I supposed to, my manager was telling me, look, tell people how they can find your music. You are not easy to find. And I guess the best way is Bandcamp page. Syd Straw Bandcamp.
.com.
SydStrawBandcamp.com.
Is that right, Greg?
Thank you, Louise. They'll find it. You have devices. I don't even have a computer. I'm basically a happy dinosaur. Let's see. Maybe you were trying to disappear. Maybe you were just sitting there, hoping not to be noticed. That would be like ignoring the ocean. Almost as blue as your eyes. Almost as blue as you. I'm almost as blue as your eyes. Ooh, since the day that I first met you, I've been trying to forget you, but there's not a damn thing I can do. Just have to bury my love for you. Almost as blue as your eyes. I'm almost as blue as you. I'm almost as blue as your eyes. Maybe you were just sitting there. Maybe you were, just sitting there trying not to be noticed. That would be like ignoring the ocean, which is almost as blue as your eyes. I'm almost as blue as you. I'm almost as blue as your eyes. What will I do with this broken heart? Oh. What will I do without you? I'm almost as blue as your eyes.
That was excellent.
Terrible.
Syd Straw.
I would like to criticize that recent
That was
performance.
great. That was great.
Thank you for being with us. We are Journals Out Loud, Riley Silverman, Syd Straw.
What a lovely bunch of coconuts.
Where can they find your work, Riley?
You can find best way to go is just go to RileySilverman.com and you'll find links to my Twitter, my Instagram, my very inactive Tumblr, and my fan page on Facebook.
Yay! We will see you next week. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.